Hello, Georgetta Gankars here, and today we're going to get started doing a face with the palette knife. And I sketched out my face here, and let's get started. And I'm going to use the half blade today, and I'm also going to use a smaller palette knife. So what you want to do is you kind of want to get set up. So I have my paints, and I have my palette, and I have different knives if I did want to use them over here, but I'm basically going to stick to my half blade. And the half blade kind of looks like this. It looks like a piece of the blade is missing, even though it isn't. This is the way the palette knife is supposed to look. And I'm also going to use a smaller knife. So let's get started. So I'm going to start first with the face. Mostly I would start with the background color, but let's start with the face. I'm going to move all these knives so you can see me up close. And I am kind of just dipping my knife in here, picking up the color, and it's only on half of the blade, not all of the blade. And I'm going to do that each time, okay? So since I drew my figure, I can kind of go around her face. I can smooth it out, and I'll show you. If I want a texture, I could do it like that. But I'm going to smooth it out. And the cool thing about the palette knife is you can keep going over it. You don't have to, you can go out of the lines. You can make mistakes. You're never going to get it exactly the way that you want it as far as realism, because it just is a thicker type of paint that you're putting on. And you can do it with oils. If you're doing it with oils, you don't have to add any terp or much terp to it. You could add linseed oil, so it drags when you mix it with the paint, or you could use straight oil paint. With acrylics, I'm not using any water. So it's a pretty heavy medium. You can apply it pretty thickly. So I have my face. And again, when I do frescoes, I'm used to doing the drawing so many times. So I just put it down with a light pencil. I use my drawing pencils. For this, I didn't really use that much of a heavyweight pencil. I pressed a lot when I was doing the drawing, but you don't have to. You can do it lighter. Okay, so once we have our face down, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the next stage, and I'm going to take this knife, I'm going to clean it off in my water. I can wipe it off on a rag, and I'm going to pick up another knife. So this is a smaller one. And I'm going to start with the features. And with the features, I'm going to do, I think, if I want to make them a little bit more powerful and make them really pop for the camera, I'm going to use a black. You don't have to. You can use a dark brown. You could use a purple. You could use any color that you want. And I'm just kind of putting them on the face. Again, this is not super realism. You can go back here if you want and touch it up with a brush. But the whole point of painting the palette knife is just using the palette knife. And I'm kind of using the sides of the knife now just to put in the shape for the eye. And it takes a little bit of practice of how much paint that you want to put on the palette knife. Because sometimes you just put too much, but that's okay. You can always go back and change it. And so now I'm just going to put in where I think the eyes are going to be. Okay? And now I'm going to move. I'm going to wipe off my knife. You can dip it in water if you want, or you can wipe it off with a rag. And I'm just going to move to the face color. And I picked a really bright red so you can basically see the lips I just want to define them a little bit better. And I'm always using the edge of my knife for a little bit more for that precision. You know, if I put too much paint, I can kind of just take it out. Okay? And then the cool thing about the knife is you can, when I say take it out, you can just scrape it. So say I made her lip too big there, and kind of scrape some of that off. And it comes off very easily. Then I can go back with the face color. You know, if you have oils, you have to be careful because it's wet on wet. Obviously, you don't want to apply that much pressure, because if you apply too much pressure, you'll be blending the colors. So, for an example, I put that there. I'll show you how to remove it. Just wipe it out. Wipe it on a rag. Go back, pick up more of the face color, and fix that. It's pretty simple. Okay, and then we have to kind of define her nose. And I think for her nose, I'm going to use a darker brown here. I'm going to leave it like this. And again, we can pull it out. And I want to mix some of the face color into that nose. So we're getting rid of that brown line. But we're just making this a darker shadow. And pull that up into here. And the thing with the palette knife is you really want to go slow. You don't want to rush. I'd say put on your favorite music and just relax. And, you know, let yourself be able to make mistakes. The good thing about making mistakes is you learn how to fix them, right? So that's really important when you're painting. Because you say, oh, next time I won't do that. If you're never making mistakes, you're not really learning that much, right? But when you make mistakes, you'll learn how to fix the mistake. So it can be kind of exciting. It can be a challenge. Give yourself a challenge. So I gave her very rosy kind of cheeks, but you can see if I blend the face color on top, I still see a little bit of the red. Again, I put the red, and then I'm just going to take more of that face color. I'm just going to put it on top, and I just blend it. And if you take one of my classes, you'll notice that when we talk about the colors of the face, the forehead, right, the chin, the two cheeks, and the nose, they all protrude. So those would be the light areas. And the dark areas will be under the eyes here. There's a little shadow under the nose, under the bottom lip. You see how your lip protrudes? So there's a shadow here. You'll see near the ear here, and of course under the chin. So it's kind of like if you have a cross that you're making on your face, right? You have the light areas on the points of the cross, and underneath you have the shadows. So kind of making her there. And then we're going to give her a little bit of brown here, some little more shadow on her face, and build her face up. And I'm also using the side of the knife. I'm pressing in. And in my class, I go in detail. We do a bunch of different things. We do faces, we do animals, we do landscapes. We have a really good time. So I'm hoping that, you know, maybe I'll see you in one of my classes and we can paint together. That would be so much fun. I'd love to have you. It's kind of a good hobby for some people if you're painting as a hobby, if you've never painted before, or if you just want to try something new and exciting. Okay, so now I'm going to give her hair, and I think for the hair, I wasn't sure, but I think I'm going to choose an umber brown. So And I have my umber brown. And if you don't have that dark brown, you can make that brown by just mixing your red and your green together. So if you had, regular red and green, you can use an apple crimson red. You can use even an alizarin crimson if you wanted a darker red. And you can just mix it with your phthalo green, which is a dark green. Some people say phthalo. And we're just putting these dark colors on top. And we can fine tune this later. We just want to kind of put down the shape of the figure. We haven't even got to the whole part. We have to put lights. We have to give her highlights in her hair. Maybe we'll give her a little bit of brown highlights in her hair. We'll build it up a little bit more. We're just putting down the colors now. We can build this up. This is just the first layer. Okay? And then now we're going to fix her nose in a minute, but we're going to start on the background. So the other thing is when I'm using my, in between this, if I wanted to dry, I might also invest in just like a blow dryer. If you have your blow dryer home for your hair, you can use a heat gun if you want it to dry a little bit faster. It's basically up to you. Dry it about 6 inches in between. Okay, so we're starting to build up the colors now. We're going to fix the nose. And I'll show you some of the palette knife paintings that I've done. So this is kind of like an abstraction. You can see all the wonderful texture in that. We've done flowers. Some more flowers. An impressionist kind of scene. And I like working with different types of textures, different strokes. And some of them are the palette knife and the brush combined. So you can work with the palette knife and the brush combined. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll do a second part where I'll start working on the fine details in the background. And I'll see you then. Ciao.